My name is Alexander Rhein. I am the designer, the developer of the Falkenstein. And in this video, I want to explain to you how the device works in detail. And this video is also meant to serve as a kind of user manual. Before we get into the individual details, I would like to take this opportunity to answer some frequently asked questions. We have customers who mow 300 square meters with it, and I personally have 150 square meters of lawn. That's why you can't really say it in general terms. It really depends on the type of person. I personally mow 2 to 3 times a week. Also, don't forget the 1/3 rule. It's very important to mow regularly with the hand reel mower and generally also with motorized ones. With a reel mower, you definitely need to mow regularly. The lawn becomes denser. You also don't have the resistance when pushing. That's why you try to mow with the hand reel mower 2 to 3 times a week, so that it's easier to push the device forward. You don't have any engines, you don't have any batteries that can break, and there's no oil that can leak. You can tilt the device to clean it however you like. It's environmentally friendly. It's super quiet. You can actually mow with it at any time. We have a super solid mowing deck that allows us to cut the grass without any contact. That's why it's also super quiet. And this is where we differ from the others. You could even say it's maintenance free. Once in a while, once a year, maybe once during the season. At the end of the season, you should maybe check the chain to make sure it doesn't rust and perhaps oil it once. You definitely need to adjust the reel as well. 2-3 times, depending on how often you mow and how intensively you use the device. Maintenance certainly also includes sharpening the reel. That's always a very big problem with reel mowers in general, whether it's a cheap hand reel mower or an expensive motorized one. Sharpening itself, the service usually costs over 100-200 euros. And here we have the huge advantage that we can actually backlap or sharpen the device ourselves using a lever on the rear roller that comes with it. This works even easier with the Falkensteins because we have a certain back bevel, which means we have very little contact area with the bottom blade. And that's why it only takes 2 or 3 minutes. You definitely shouldn't overdo the backlapping. If you have the one, if you don't violate the 3rd rule and mow regularly, it's even fun. Of course, if you skip the lawn and go on holiday and come back, then you are injuring the 1/3 rule, then it gets exhausting. You have to honestly admit that, and that's how it is. That's why some people mow first as a solution, and then mow again afterwards with the Falkenstein. When you push the device, you feel a certain resistance. That has to do with the fact that we have a high gear ratio, and the reel has to get up to speed first. The first 1-2 meters can have a certain resistance. Once the device is up to speed, mowing doesn't feel so difficult. And it's absolutely acceptable, even if it weighs 47 kilos. You have the mass and the momentum, and then the thing rolls. In general, a hand reel is no longer suitable for sloped areas. For steep slopes, you have a slight slope instead. It's not a problem either. Once the device is in motion and up to speed, we have a huge advantage with the Falkenstein because we have a contactless cut, right? And that creates the low resistance. There's usually only 1, 2, or 3/100ths of a millimeter between the reel and the bottom blade, which results in a clean cut. The device is high quality. That definitely has to do with the high quality materials. I'll go into detail about that individually later. You buy the device once in a lifetime. It's a made in Germany product. You have to appreciate that, and our customers do appreciate it. We've really installed every steep weight in the corner roller on the non-drive side so that we have the same pressure on the lawn. Exactly 100 grams. The entire rear roller is completely made of stainless steel. The drive shaft as well. We've made everything in the rear roller waterproof, installed. We have shafts tightly sealed. The differential in the rear roller is completely dustproof. It's also waterproof. So when it's cleaned with water, no water gets into the differential. With other manufacturers, everything is open and partly also made of plastic. We have everything made of stainless steel. It's basically indestructible, this differential function. And in production, it's very complex. And at first glance, the customer doesn't see what kind of technology we've really installed in the rear roller. We have a differential function in these bushings. We have waterproof here. We've installed shaft seals that are dustproof and waterproof. Other manufacturers have here an open plastic differential in the middle. We don't have that. It's basically made entirely of stainless steel. And it's also the biggest cost factor at Falkenstein. We have a drive cover that is a bit soundproofed. Here we see our double translation. We've installed really robust gears. Here you can see exactly what stable chains these are. We build it to be durable. It's maintenance free, though you might need to oil it every now and then. We have specific cutting frequencies that we achieve through this double reduction gear. We even have an alternative with a larger gear. With this alternative, we achieve even more. Translation means even more cuts per meter. But that's really only for people who want to mow under 5 millimeters and have a 10-blade spindle. But of course also for the 6-blade spindle, if the customer has decided on that. Also to mow under 15 millimeter, so that we have 10 to 20 more cuts per meter. Yes, let's move on to the front roller and its adjustment. The height can be adjusted continuously from 5 millimeter to 25 millimeter up and down. We have a stop here at the front. It hits exactly at 5 millimeter. Now I've put the mower in maintenance position, screwed it onto the middle holes. And to avoid damaging the lawn too much, I've put something underneath it now. What sets us apart from the others is, of course, that our height adjustment is completely play-free. The roller wobbles not at all. We have a scraper here at the front that keeps the roller clean. The newer Falkensteins have a lowered side. This really leads to less edge formation when turning. Overall, this all leads to something more beautiful. The roller itself is completely made of aluminum. Solid, is slightly grilled, and also leaves no stripes. What advantage does the ribbing have? The mower stays more stable on its path overall. And doesn't float as much with the corner roller. If you ever happen to remove the front roller, you have to calibrate the height again on the left and right with the help of a hawk bar. Because the front roller calibrates the side alignment. That's why it's not just about loosening the screws. That would basically uncalibrate the mower. The suspension itself is also completely made of stainless steel. The screws, so that it can't rust. The quality of the material plays a crucial role. On the side we have a scale for the cutting height from 5 to 25 millimeters. When it's undone, it's set to 50 millimeters. And it's really important when using the real mower to pay attention to mowing evenly from side to side. Here we have a height gauge that digitally shows us the cutting height with precision down to the hundredths, both on the left and right. Now we have 14.83 on this side. And on the side we have 14.8. That's 3 hundredths now, but that's there. We don't need to go over the hundredths range. You need to pay attention to the tenths range. That's what sets us apart from other devices. But I'm not talking about the professional sector. In the professional sector, you have precise accuracy. What I mean is, the mowers that are also offered on the market for private use, yes, that's actually a must-have for any real mower that is driven by a roller. This way you can clearly see what the actual cutting height is. Now let's talk about the mowing unit. That's the most important thing when it comes to reel mowers. Now in this case with the Edge reel mower, the materials play an important role there. In terms of wear and how long it stays sharp, it's very important to have a torsion-resistant chassis so that we don't shift the mowing unit in the hundredths range. When a reel mower works well, it must also perform a clean cut on paper. We even advertise that we deliver every hand reel mower in a way that it has a truly contactless cut upon delivery. And you can really tell there's absolutely no contact here. It's completely silent. We have 80 grams of test paper here and a 10-blade reel with a back bevel. We can see how small our open wound is. The relief is in new condition even with us Cattell coated. Of course, most of the reliefs in the professional sector have been reground several times and left open and would then rust if wet. Now, of course, we always test it with the paper before we deliver it to see if it cuts properly. And we are always very honest about this cut, and we don't do it with a lot of momentum, but really very slowly. We see how we can achieve the cutting effect. We achieve this perfectly thanks to our grinding method, which we carry out just like on golf courses. We can see that the paper is really being cut on both sides at the lowest speed of the reel, in every area of the bottom blade. And every lawn enthusiast knows that if the grass is cut poorly, torn in an unhealthy way, or not cut at all, then many diseases can naturally develop. And we try to avoid that by using high quality materials. We have had the experience that we can spend a whole season truly cut without contact. Every now and then it happens that you need to adjust the reel a bit. I would like to explain exactly how to do that now. This distance between the reel and the bottom blade is not easy. We use metal plates that are exactly 0.03. Are thin. I adjust the lower blade consciously in turn to make the gap larger in a clockwise direction. I intentionally turn the screw clockwise to create a larger gap. Of course, I'm contactless, but now I have to remove this plate, left and right, to bring it into contact. Now I'm turning counterclockwise on one side and move it back and forth. I'm turning counterclockwise. So now he's got it. Now it's obviously too tight, but it's working. It's even perfect. It barely grazes it if it takes the thing too much with it. Then of course you have to turn clockwise again so that the gap opens further. We have to do the same thing on this side. I'm now turning counterclockwise. The screw so I can reduce the gap. So now he's got it again. Now I'm turning it forward. It's still too little. Now he's taking the extreme, almost cutting it. You really have to adjust each side again. Readjust. He shouldn't take it too old. He just needs to graze it very lightly. That's obviously an adjustment you usually only make once or twice a year on Fridays. The advantage with us is that we really do it tool-free. So now I have both in contact and I really notice and hear no noise. I now take my paper, my 80-gram paper. This is really thin paper. So no double folding or any nonsense like that. That's all just a mess. I see it cuts 100%. Topic: spindle bearings. We conducted a long-term test and concluded that we are using this double row spherical bearing from Japan. It's a premium product and they guarantee us for decades that this ball bearing will really remain play-free in the 100% range. The play-free range remains. Why is it important? Because of the cut, the spindle must not be in the 100th play range. That ensures a perfect cut. We also manufacture these flange bearings ourselves, completely out of aluminum. It's also stainless, so we're not dependent on other suppliers. It is completely closed in on itself. We don't have any mesh material, it's not steel, it's super light and it's shock resistant. The suspension is made of sturdy spring steel. We've made a small update here so that no grass clippings fly over the basket. It's made of aluminum, so it's also not prone to rust. Hanging it up is super easy, just put it on the two. Screw it in, hang it up, and you're done. The bumper itself is now rubberized on the new models, so that if you bump into something, it is more shock resistant and doesn't hit metal. This way, we've ensured that the basket absorbs the impact. In the newer models, we have a longitudinal hole here with this sawtooth profile. It's designed so that you can adjust the height of the handle and fine-tune it a bit. In height, it's important to insert this screw diagonally into the sawtooth and not lengthwise. Otherwise, the screw will get pulled along with the handle. It can then be pushed forward. For that, we have the knurled nut up here. You can adjust the cutting height continuously. We have a scale on the side that shows exactly what cutting height we are currently at. We can set the cutting height to a depth of 5 mm. Here we have a stop. We have the lowest adjustment position here, and we're at about 5 millitools. For the really hardcore enthusiasts, we have a kind of life hack, as they say today. Then you push the clamp up, and you can really lower it even further, down to 2.73 mm. But we really recommend only going down to 5 mm because our lower blade position is set up aggressively and needs to handle all cutting heights. We have a handle that comes included. You just look at it very simply. And then you can turn the rear roller forward or backward. Turn it backward. When backlapping, we obviously have to do the whole thing backwards. Turn. A very important point here is that you need to set a side gap beforehand, before we even apply the paste. We do that, as mentioned, with the knurled screw. Clockwise. Then we open the gap to about 1 mm, and then I have here my 3/10ths of emptiness that I set on my grinding paste. I found that we set the gap on the left and right to 3/10ths with our grinding paste. I'm turning it back now. Counterclockwise until it's tight. Now it's tight and I have about 3/10ths of air. Here I have too much still. Until I can push the thing out. Alright, now we're good to go. 3/10ths. This isn't as precise as the cutting test. It's important, when we start, that the spindle is not tapered, but really parallel to the bottom blade. Our grinding paste, please don't use too much. This is a super aggressive and high quality paste. We don't need to apply a lot here, just really a minimal amount. And then we're off. When backlapping, you should of course make sure that the reel is turning backwards. And when it turns backwards, it also sprays in a certain direction. I'm intentionally starting to turn backwards now, not forwards. And sit down in this direction so I don't get splashed. We're starting like this, so we don't have any contact yet to the reel. Now I've evenly applied our grinding paste everywhere. We've applied our grinding paste. Now I'm going to go ahead and really evenly turn the knurled screw counterclockwise. I'm reducing the gap, but then evenly on both sides. Then we turn exactly the same on the left and right. Now we notice that we're making contact. Here, you need to make sure that we really turn both knurled screws evenly. Adjust step by step counterclockwise. It's very important to apply the grinding paste evenly everywhere. You always have to turn backwards. Now after 30 seconds, after a minute, I can adjust the backlapping to make it tighter. Just turn a little counterclockwise, but please do it evenly. That's it. 2-3 minutes. It obviously depends on how dull the knife is. In this case, it was still somewhat sharp, that's why. That's enough in this case that we've done it for 2 to 3 minutes. Tap it 3-4 times. Actually, that's enough. For private use for a very, very, very long time, even if it's just 150 grams. After the backlapping, we want to clean everything up. Then we obviously close the gearbox unit so that no water gets in. Just rinse everything off at the end with the hose. I'll do this in the normal position. We'll do this a little more. I generally recommend using a compressor to clean up after every mowing. It always goes quickly, and you don't always have to clean with the hose. I only clean it with the hose when I've mowed wet grass, and of course after the backlapping, I'm trying to blow this out a bit. Also the brush a little bit. You can, but you don't have to.